Now, there are said to be 7 champions in Christendom, and St. George is easily the greatest of them. The Christian champions are St. George for England, said to have been imprisoned 7 years by the Almidor, the Black King of Morocco. St. Denis for France, who lived for 7 years in the form of a hart. St. James for Spain, who for 7 years was dumb. St. Anthony for Italy, who was enchanted in a black castle till released by St. George's 3 sons. St. Andrew for Scotland. St. Patrick for Ireland, and St. David for Wales. He slept for 7 years in an enchanted garden till gallantly rescued by St. George. All these champions, of course, performed wonderful deeds to win their high renown. But it will be noticed that St. George is always accounted the mightiest champion, and was therefore the most famous. Of such marvellous doings were the romances of the Middle Ages made up, and for some reason 7 is always the mystic number in them. By the 6th century, St. George was fully established in popular favour, and the Crusades added to his great renown. He is said to have fought for Godfrey the Bouillon in the First Crusade, at the Battle of Antioch, which city was captured and made the capital of a Christian principality, and for Richard the Lionheart of England in the Third Crusade, nearly 100 years later at Acre, which was taken after a desperate siege of 2 years. Many and exceeding marvellous were the miracles attributed to St. George, and so popular did he become in olden times that many places besides England claimed him for their patron saint, as Sicily, Aragon and Malta. Many towns too elected to fight under his banner, as Genoa, Barcelona and not a few others. His connection with England begins with the first of these episodes, when he appeared at the head of the Christian army, carrying a Red Cross banner. The broad red Latin-shaped cross on a white field is now known as the flag of St. George, and was for centuries our national flag. It was embodied in the Union Jack, and is today the flag of an English admiral. Since the siege of Antioch, St. George has been regarded as the champion of Christendom, as well as of England. The reason for this choice is thus set forth by one historian. At the famous siege of Antioch, when the city was like to be relieved by a mighty army of Saracens, St. George appeared with an innumerable army, coming down from the hills, all in white, with a red cross to his banner, to reinforce the Christians, which occasioned the infidel army to fly, and the Christians to possess themselves of the city. The name of this saint was used as a war cry, because he was of the military caste, and therefore fitted to become the patron of soldiers. Shakespeare mentions our patron saint and the use of his name as a battle cry. Thus, in the play of Richard III, he makes Richmond finish an address to his soldiers with these words: "Sound drums and trumpets boldly and cheerfully, God and St. George, Richmond and victory." So also, on the other side, King Richard, after receiving the news that Lord Stanley had deserted and gone over to the enemy, valiantly exclaims, "Advance our standards, set upon our foes, our ancient word of courage, fair St. George. Inspire us with the spleen of fiery dragons. Upon them!" Richmond won the day, and became King Henry VII. In the 10th year of his reign, the Irish were forbidden to use their favourite war cry in their own language, "Abo," and strictly enjoined to use only words that were not "contrary to the King's lords, his crown and dignity and peace, but to call on St. George," or else the name of the King of England for the time being. Indeed, in olden times there was an instruction to English soldiers in the art of war, worded in this way: Item, that all soldiers entering into battle, assault, skirmish, or other faction of arms shall have for their common cry and word, "St. George, forward!" or "Upon them, St. George!" whereby the soldier is much comforted, and the enemy dismayed, by calling to mind the ancient valour of England, which with that name has so often been victorious. And never let it be forgotten that at the glorious attack on Zeebrugge Mole On the eve of St. George's Day, 1918, our gallant men rushed on the German defenders, strongly posted with every weapon that modern military science could devise, to the ancient battle cry of "St. George for England!" They showed the same great courage as the mail-clad knights of Coeur de Lion, who spurred their charges against the paynim hosts of Saladin.